How we doing, traders? How we doing, traders? Sorry for the late start here. Just dealing with everyday work here at Benzinga. We don't stop here. We're always in fast forward, trying to break stuff like Jason always says. So let's go ahead. Let's get into what everyone wants. The SPAC attack. Let's do it, guys. All right. So I just want to say hi to Chris. How you doing, Chris?
Good. How about you, Mitch?
Doing great, guys. Just trying to catch up here. I can see the chat buzzing. I want to give a shout out to everyone that's been in the chat before we even start. I really appreciate this. And when you guys let us know what stock you want to hear, we'll go ahead and cover those stocks. So let's go ahead and let's get right into it. Let's get into the notable headlines for today. Just want to say hi to everyone out there and let's get started. Let's take us back behind the headlines, Chris. All right, Chris, so what's going on out there?
Another exciting day. We had a couple deals announced. So first one we're going to hit, symbol GIX. That's Gig Capital 2. They announced their merger with UpHealth and CloudBreak to form a combined company. This is going to be a global digital health company serving 4 of the fastest growing digital health markets, which are integrated care management, global telehealth, digital pharmacy, and tech-enabled behavioral health. This is being done at a $1.35 billion enterprise value. So they really hit on some of those growing trends like telehealth, digital pharmacy that you've seen other companies get involved in. They see their revenue hitting $115 million this year, and then next year hitting $194 million. And 69% of their 2021 revenue is already contracted, so they have that based in place. So this is one people need to watch, so symbol GIX. And then the other deal we had announced this morning, symbol INAQ. This is Insu Acquisition. They are taking Metro Mile public via SPAC. So Metro Mile is a pay-per-mile auto insurance company trying to disrupt that highly fragmented insurance market. Their $160 million pipe is led by Mark Cuban, who is already an investor in Metro Mile, and then Social Capital, which is the company ran by Chamath Palihapitiya. So you got 2 big names behind this deal. They are expanding to 49 states by the end of 2022. They see revenue hitting $1 billion in 2024. It's being done at an enterprise value of $956 million, and shareholders in the existing SPAC will get 17.6% of the new company. So they're currently only in 8 states, but again, expanding to 49 by the end of 2022. So highly fragmented auto insurance market. No U.S. carriers have more than a 20% market share, and there's 110 auto insurance carriers that have $100 million or more a year in revenue. Long term, this company sees cross-selling opportunities for homeowners insurance, renters insurance, pet insurance, and other industries. They say that 65% of the auto insurance customers subsidize the other 35%. And they also have an enterprise software business that they're selling to other insurance companies, which I think is something investors need to look at going forward as legacy insurance companies look to kind of digitalize their assets. Big earnings report last night. MP Materials, the symbol MP. This is one that we've talked about a lot on the show here. We had the CEO on last week. So they reported their third quarter earnings. Revenue was $41 million, which was up 52% year over year. And they reported net income of $14.6 million. So they had over 10,000 tons of rare earth oxide in concentration that was mined during the quarter. Their production costs were down, and they sold over 9,000 metric tons in the quarter at an average price of $3,393. So they're seeing higher pricing driven by the higher market for these items, just like when we talked to the CEO, Jim Litinsky. So, 9-month revenue is now $92.1 million compared to $52.4 last year. So again, this was done as a SPAC. This is a company with existing growing revenue in a growing market for rare earth minerals. This is one that's been running recently. We'll get to that more in the watch list, I'm sure, but this is one investors need to be aware of. Love the long-term potential here. Another earnings report was symbol DMYT. So this is one we talked about yesterday when we covered the BETS ETF. So they run Rush Street Interactive, sports betting and iGaming company. They reported third quarter revenue of $78.2 million, which was up 370% year over year. They raised their full year guidance to 265 to 275 million due to the strong quarterly result. Their real money active users were up 135% year over year. And then I just saw on Twitter, our good friends at Roundhill Investments, which we had the co-founder on the show yesterday, tweeted that in Illinois saw $305 million in sports betting handle in October. Bet Rivers, which is owned by Rush Street Interactive, led the way again with $98.6 million. They did have DraftKings hot on their tail at $95.9 million. But again, Rush Street got the early start in Illinois with the Bet Rivers brand, and they have been the top performer for 3 straight months. So this is a SPAC where you're getting in on some regulated markets, and you have the leader in a state that's growing tremendously. LGVW was a deal that was announced on Friday. The SPAC is acquiring Butterfly Network, which is a portable ultrasound company. Stock has been running a lot recently, and that's continuing today. It was announced yesterday that Cathie Wood, the ETF manager, added over 459,000 shares to the ARC-G ETF. That ETF is up over 128% in 2020. Wood also loaded up on IPOB before. She doesn't add SPACs a lot, but when she does, they get a lot of attention. So look for this one going forward. SBE, another big runner, so Switchback Energy, acquiring ChargePoint. So Citron, a notable short seller yesterday, tweeted out against Blink Charging and told investors to actually consider SBE instead due to trading at a similar valuation but higher market share. So 73% market share for ChargePoint. Monster run yesterday, monster run last month. And then also this morning, SBE, so ChargePoint, announced a new deal with Volvo ahead of the company's XC40 electric SUV rollout. They will partner on charging networks and also push for those users to buy the home charging station from ChargePoint. So a lot of positive news around this one. Again, it is up huge over the last week. This is one that I own, and I did take some off the table last week to lock in those profits. We are still watching KCAC. They have a merger vote coming up tomorrow on that QuantumScape deal, which is a company backed by Bill Gates. The other big news, we have an exciting IPO today. So symbol OZON. This is Ozon Holdings. So they sold 30 million ADS. Not sure on the actual price point yet. It looks like this one is going to open above $30 due to strong demand. They are one of the largest e-commerce companies in Russia, so AKA the Amazon of Russia. This is a large fragmented market. So originally they were going to raise $500 million, but they actually boosted the IPO range due to demand. They have a third-party seller system that represents 45% of their gross merchandise revenue. So again, strong first-party and third-party selling. They also have their own logistics business. They have lockers and pickup points, so very similar to Amazon here. They can cover 40% of the Russian population with next-day delivery. They have strong brand awareness. So Russia is the 11th largest economy in the world. They also have high internet penetration rates, which bodes well for an e-commerce company like this. Revenue is growing tremendously, and they are also offering additional services like financial products for buyers and sellers, advertising for sellers, logistics, and then they also have their own branded debit card for the Russian market. So this one to me is very similar. You're going to see the Amazon comparisons. Also, I think it compares well to Jumia Technologies, JMIA, which is one that I've mentioned before at Benzinga. It is the African e-commerce company. This is one that's been running a lot lately. So, the Amazon of Russia, again, highly fragmented e-commerce market. This one could be a hot IPO today. So don't get, caught up too high up there. But this is one where, people need to be aware that it has a huge market ahead of it. And that is it for headlines today, Mitch.
All right, guys. All right. That's why we have Chris, as you guys can see, the man with the brains here. on the other side of me today. So, all right. No, one thing I definitely want to go into is we did get some questions in the chat there. It looks like that would be on me here, guys. So I want to make sure that you guys got that. Let's go over exactly just the tickers that you touched right now in kind of in the order so that everyone can get it down in the chat. All right. So what was we'll go right from the top. So the first stock that we talked about today is going to be
was GIX. So we had GIX, which is Gig Capital, which has announced that merger deal for the global health. And then we had the deal announced for symbol INAQ. So that was Metro Mile, the pay per mile auto insurance. And then we hit on MP Materials, symbol MP, the rare earth miner. And then we hit earnings from DMYT. So that is the sports betting and iGaming one. Then we had LGVW, which is the portable ultrasound that was added to Cathie Wood's ETF. And then we had SBE, that's the charging infrastructure company that Citron announced to buy instead of Blink. And then they signed that deal with Volvo this morning. And then we are watching KCAC merging with QuantumScape, a EV battery company, with their merger vote coming up tomorrow. And then lastly, we hit that IPO, which is symbol OZON, Ozon Holdings, the Amazon of Russia.
All right, all right. As you
So
can
lots
see,
of tickers
Chris,
today, lots of tickers. And sometimes I talk so fast, guys, so sorry. We'll try to hit those tickers better. I'll try to make sure we get those because I did see a lot of questions in the chat on those.
Not a worry, Chris. What it is that you're a man of mad information. It's not just one stock, as you guys can tell. Chris knows them all. So let's go ahead and let's get into the chat. I did see some new faces here, so I want to give some recognition out here. I even saw mention here from LinkedIn. We got to give a shout out to Francisco Murphy. You know, definitely saying he's loving the information and thank you for sharing the expertise. So, Chris, they're definitely loving you out there, guys. All right, guys.
Awesome to hear that, guys.
Let's get into the watch list, guys. There's stocks that are moving today. I definitely have been seeing them out there. So let's get into our watch list, guys. All right, guys. So we're going to pull up here our watch list. You know, one of the things that we've been trying to do is trying to build this watch list up. I'm going to go ahead and pull in one of our charts that we're looking at right now. We're looking at SPE. We're going to go from the top and work our way down. I don't think anyone wants to look at the stocks that are down on the day. Now, if you do want to look at certain stocks that are on our on the downside of our watch list, definitely let us know in the chat and we'll take a look. You know, one of the things is we wanted this show to really be all about you guys. So let us know what SPACs you guys want to go over. Let's do a complete review. Let us know in the chat and we'll go ahead and bring it on up. Okay, so SPE, you guys heard Chris mentioned it and kind of one of the catalysts that's going on in it. One of the things that I would definitely pay attention to is if we look at the 15-minute chart, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up the 15-minute chart. We got a strong rejection here in the morning from this 42 price point. I'm going to be really paying attention towards that 42 price point as we get those rejections. We wanted to get back above that. And as you saw at the open right there, about 9 o'clock, 9:15, 9:30, right at the open, we got a huge amount of volume to come in there. I'm trying to make sure that, that this is not just a turnaround spot. One thing we are seeing is these stocks are getting extended. If you look at it on the daily chart, you know, and this is why I always state, where do you want to take profit? Because it's very important to understand where you're going to take profit. Let's say if I was in this stock at 18 and I doubled up and I got around $36 and I had 100% gainer, to me, that's more than enough on any stock. So I would definitely be looking at that 36 price point that I've taken some. But like I always tell people, know your target, know what you want from an investment. You can't just always think that it's just going to keep going to the moon. So that's the one thing I definitely mentioned here. I know Chris kind of owns this one, so I'll let him touch it a little bit.
Yeah, so this has been one of my favorites. I bought in at the $13 level. I took a lot of profits off the table on Friday and on Monday. I do still own some, but we are now playing with the house's money. I do think the valuation has stretched here, but it is getting all that positive press. So people are, becoming more aware of the name. I think this one may sell off before the SPAC deal, gets complete, which is typical with some of these big runners. And then you're going to see a pullback. And then once the ticker changes over, and then also once, Biden does his first speech and mentions electric vehicle infrastructure, you could see a run again. So be careful chasing at these levels. And again, I sold some because, lock in those profits, as Mitch said. But this one has just been insane. Hopefully some of you guys out there, were able to get in and also lock in those profits as well.
All right, guys, the next one we're going to take a look at is one called MP Materials. MP Materials is up about 18% on the day. And this is actually a stock, guys, we had it on here just the other day. So that's why I always tell you guys, definitely hit the bell, hit the like below, and then you'll be notified every single time we come on. Don't miss a show, guys. All right, so we look at MP Materials on a 1 hour chart. I was actually watching it on the first day here on the 19th, and I really liked when it got back above that $16 price point. Once it got back above that $16 price point, what did you get? Another little volume pop to hold it there at the 1650s. Now that we've broken out through that $19 level, I'd be looking for a pullback somewhere near the 20 or 1950s to maybe approach this one to get in. But as you can see, this one's taking off, guys. Just about like every other SPAC in the recent week or something. If we look at our watch list, I mean, overall, almost every morning I'm finding one or two of them up about over 10%. So, what we always talk about, and I think it's important to remind people, is diversification in SPACs can actually lead to some return of investment. And so that's what I would definitely pay attention to. Is how can you diversify in these plays so that you can maybe catch one of these runners. All right, guys, want to keep going through some other stocks. So let's hit a stock that's in our chat, and then we'll come back to our watch list. All right, so one of the things that we want to do is definitely hit the stocks that are in our watch list. I'm scrolling up here. We don't want to miss some that we didn't touch. Well, I got one in the EV that's mentioned here, but it's not really the SPAC here. Let's get into Solo. Solo brought up here. Let's pull up the chart here. Let's touch Solo right quick. Let's look at this on the daily, as we're looking at this one more of a longer term, and you can see multiple resistance tries here to get above $6, and every time it spiked, it came right back down. Spiked, came right back down. So one of the things you always got to remember of this stock is that it tries to find support. When I see stocks like this on kind of this volatility where you're seeing the spikes on the daily and then the next day it's all the way back down at the support, this just shows you that you got to always know your levels and know your further back levels. I know a lot of you day traders trade on a 1 minute time tick. So one of the things I would remind a trader that trades on a 1 minute is always understand the further time frame, the 15, the daily, so you don't get caught in one of these moves where it just spikes up there, and the next thing you know, the next day you're holding it and it opens up at $8. It's very hard to kind of get stuck in that position. So one of the things that you did notice is this stock did a drive up there, almost got to 13. We got a high here. Let me see the high here, 1360. 1360 was the high here. So now we're pulling back. We pulled back all the way to that $8 level. And this is why I always tell you guys, know your support. You saw the support right here, hold up. And what I would want to see is if we can find multiple levels of support here. So if we can make another attempt to get maybe slightly under this $8 price point and create a bottom, then we can maybe make another approach towards that 13. Like always, a lot of these EV plays, if you really look at them, it's not only just one of them that's moving. You could look at Blink, you could look at XPV, you could look at another one, INO. You have so many in this department that are moving. Workhorse, Ride, and we'll go to Ride here so that we can stick with our watch list. Look at this stock. You definitely have opportunities in SPACs to get in. one of the things I would definitely remind people is just try not to always buy the highs. Look for those discounts. Look for the stocks that get driven down towards that NAV or that net price value that's underneath where they think the valuation is. And if you can see here, this green spike, this showed you kind of where the big boys were stepping back in, which was near this $14 price point. Go ahead, Chris. I'll let you jump in here. What do you think about this EV market right now?
Yeah, so I mean, these stocks have ran up very high now, very high valuations. You've seen, NIO pass General Motors and Ford. Solo was one that was called out by Citron with a short seller report, price target of $1, calling the company a complete joke, which is where some of that downside trend started. I like some of these EV SPACs better, and those are the ones I'm in. Some of these other companies, no revenue, haven't really heard about them until, they issued some press releases saying they were doing EV and kind of, hitting that hot market. So, a company like Solo, I would be careful with. I did mention FUV on the show before. That's a smaller EV company that I liked, and then also I'm in some of those, HYLN, the Helion, where they're doing the electrification of the Class 8 trailers. Also, I saw someone mention in the chat PIC, which is merging with XL, other company electrifying, pickup trucks and larger trucks. So again, they're not designing their own electric vehicles. They're retrofitting the ones that are already on the road. So their market is already there. They don't have to build from scratch. They can hit that addressable market on their own. One I do like is Fisker. I have a small position in Fisker, FSR. We've talked about on the show. They have that electric vehicle coming out next year. Henrik Fisker is, a great designer. He's had some history with companies before. They have orders on the books. They have a deal in place with Magna, which is a large auto partner. I think that deal speaks volumes, about their existing product. I think that's one, where I'll take a stab at it with the electric vehicle market and no revenue on the books so far.
All right, I want to hop into another one here. I know there's so many in the chat and everyone wants to talk. So let's go into one that I think everyone's watching today, KCAC here. We talked about this one in our headlines, but definitely if you look at the chart, I mean, you're definitely starting to see what I always talk about. Like when these come out of merger, you have to find where the valuation actually meets. So if you see at this stock, it went back down here, and what ends up happening here, guys, is there's another step up here. So there's a big guy that kind of starts stepping up here in the $14 level. You probably saw it go to this $12 level, get back above, then come back and hold that level. And then so you see this slight dip here. This is probably where he's getting in, and then you see immediate poppage following that. Those are the kind of things that I'd be watching for now. Now I need to see a pullback towards this big green pop. So I'd look for a pullback closer towards the $20 area to hopefully see the volume coming in as the stock pulls back and tries to go back towards that 26. Today, we're definitely getting a pullback from the $24 price point. So it looks like there's definitely some sellers in the market. Maybe some people taking some profits. I can't blame them. All right, guys, want to catch up with the chat. I know we have a lot of users in the chat today, so I want to give some shout outs here. Let me go ahead and roll through here. All right, so I want to give a shout out to PJ. PJ was here, I think, like 40 minutes before the show started, 2 hours before the show started. You guys,
loyal listener, loyal listener,
like.
PJ. He's always there.
We got the Hustler's Dream. We got Brown, Ally, Jared King, Richard, Slowback, Jet. There's so many great names. We got Aramis, we got Francisco, Jay Tower, Sheriff, BNZMB. We got it all, guys. Definitely hit the like, hit the subscribe below. We are loyal to you guys, just like you guys are loyal to us. So let's go ahead and let's hit the chat. Let's get another one from the chat here, guys. All right, so I'm seeing some other ones right here. Let's get into. I got this one. I haven't heard too much about this one. Maybe you know about this one, Chris. I got one from P. Cancella, APXT.
Yeah, so
What do
this
you know
was the
about that
one they announced the deal yesterday. So they are a Microsoft Cloud partner. This one, guys, hit the like, hit the subscribe. This company I've been in contact with. We're trying to get the CEO to come on the show next week to talk about this company. So you definitely want to hit like, you definitely want to subscribe. We're bringing you the CEOs of these companies so we can get, the information. This is one I like. Microsoft's cloud business is growing like crazy. They are one of the largest partners of that business. So they bridge the gap between Microsoft and these small to mid-market sized companies. It's not a hot market like electric vehicles, so you didn't see that huge spike. But this is one where they're going to have predictable recurring revenue. Which again, so if you're an investor who looks at revenue, looks at solid financials and not just, the huge growth possibilities, from the like EV market. This is one that maybe you want to take a look at, for that software market. As I said yesterday, they were one of only 5 companies with $150 million in revenue, 25% year-over-year growth, 10% margins, along with Zoom Info. I forgot the other companies, but all those companies in that group of 5 are up over 80% on the year. So select company that this one's in. So I like this one here.
Yeah, definitely. You're definitely seeing this one kind of push above that $10 price point. Like I always talk about, Chris, one of the patterns that I've seen, and I still see this. If it can hold 2 days above $10, get some volume, that's when I get excited about these specs. The reason why I don't look for just 1 day above that $10. A lot of times you'll see it like spike, like let's say 10.20, then pull back to 9.80. So one of the I want to see is I want it to get above that $10 price point and hold. If it can hold, usually you get that bull transfer, and when you get that transfer, sometimes you'll get these runs. As you've seen the volume spike here, this actually interests me, Chris. That volume spike there could definitely be someone trying to start averaging in a position. So what I would like to see here is for this stock, let it pull back, let it come back and try to get down towards this 10.25 area, and then look for another load up to try to attempt to break that 11 price point. One of the things I like to look for is what I call the rule of 3, guys. The rule of 3 is something I've seen from patterns and patterns and patterns so many times. So one of the things that you see often, guys, is going to be a 3 test of resistance, 3 support tries, and then you need to see if that flag can test the resistance above. Then the volume itself can push it above that resistance. I call it the rule of 3. And if you look up in the Japanese religion and culture, you'll see that 3 actually represents lucky and 4 is actually unlucky. I don't know why it works this way, but if you guys look at it on the charts, you guys might see exactly what I've been seeing. All right, guys, so go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and bring Chris back. Let's go ahead and get into some other one. I have one that's been mentioned often. I don't think we've touched it enough, and I think it's fair that we go ahead and we listen to Brad here. He wants to talk about SPAQ. Let's go ahead and get into that. What do you know about that one, Chris?
SPAQ, trying to pull up the chart here. SPAQ was the symbol before Fisker went public. So I'm not sure if the question is on Fisker or Spartan Acquisition did have a second SPAC that priced the other day. So, Fisker will hit on. So again, electric vehicle play. They're bringing that vehicle to market in a couple of years. The Ocean. They also have some other stuff in the pipeline. They have over 9,000 orders. They also are expanding their social influencer program, which is going to bring them some brand awareness. The Fisker name does bring some brand awareness since he did design cars at other companies. This is one I have a small position in. I've liked since before they completed that SPAC deal. You saw a huge pullback when that deal, the vote went through. And then once it started getting the attention on CNBC and some of the press releases, you started to see it run up. This is going to be one to keep an eye on over the next year or two. I think it's a long-term play. I'm in for the long term here. You can see that chart there. Again, if it can hold, it looks like the 16 there. It did have that huge run up. So let's ask Mitch about that chart there.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing here, guys, is actually a classic run. What I call this pattern on the daily chart is what they call the ABCD pattern. Why is it an ABCD pattern? Because a lot of times when we get a stock to kind of rip out, what we do is we have kind of these trends, right? So if let's stay to the first pattern. This is the first pattern here from like the 30th to about, we could put it to the 6th of November. So you see this drive up, you get that first drive, then you get a pullback consolidation, then another drive up, a pullback consolidation, and another drive up. So this is the A move, the B move, you got a C move. And what usually happens, at least from, if you look at statistics, you usually get that D move. You'll get like a little breakout towards the top here, but that's usually the end of a trend wave. And so a lot of people look at waves when they're looking at technical analysis and pivot points. And so I think you could get a pivot point here at the 16, and it could maybe run up towards that resistance of 18. But we're definitely starting to get extended here. So one thing I definitely mentioned, and I mention this always, guys, know your plan, know your out, know your reward, know your risk, know what you're trying to attain in each stock and each trade that you guys make. All right, guys, let's go ahead and let's get back into the chat. What's going on, chat? Hit us up, hit the like, hit the subscribe, share this with your friends. We talk stocks, guys. We talk SPACs, IPO, and whatever you guys want to see. All right, guys, so looking like we have a couple more here. Going to go into the chat here, try to find another one. JKS. I'm seeing JKS. All right, so that's a solar play here, a solar play. Seek scan. I like it. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get into this one. This is a solar stock play. Look at this chart. People can't tell me that technical analysis doesn't work when you can clearly see the support here. And so this is a very important lesson, guys. Stocks will drive up and come back to support. So it's not always just buy the high and then expect it to keep going to the moon. It's a lot of times it's where can I find support so that I can get into this stock the right way. So let's look at this on it. That was a 1 hour chart. Let's look at the daily chart. Look how clear it gets. So this is another lesson here in technical analysis. And one of the things is look back in time. As you look back in time, what ends up happening is you get clear definition of trend. And so now in this daily, you got that support clearly drawn out here near that 60 price point. You get those little wicks down here, and it comes to the next level of support, which is over here to this level. But that's why what I look for is what they call multiple layers of support. Multiple layers is this, where you're seeing maybe a support here near that 60, and you're seeing another layer of support here down to like 56 and 55s. And so that's kind of what I like to see on an upside look. You got the 3 look here. So 1 drive, 2 drive, 3 drive. I would look for a pullback followed with an attempt run towards that 75 with big volume spike. Declining volume, you need the volume spike so it can head towards the resistance and get above that. All right, guys, going to go ahead and I try to give you guys what I can from technical analysis so that not only are we learning about stories, but we can also learn how to time our entries. I always talk about technicals is all about kind of more timing. And so what I like to do is I use stories to combine with the technicals and then try to get in on these pullbacks. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and let's get into another one. I'm seeing Slowback mention PLTR. IPO life. Let's get into that. All right. So, Chris, what do you know about PLTR, and what would you like to say about that?
Yeah. So PLTR, that's Palantir, direct listing this year. This has been a hot one. Didn't see a huge price at that initial point, but once it started going, it started to get hot. They have announced several recent deals. Their earnings report looked very strong. This is being seen as a possible election play since during the last Democrat presidency, they did win a majority of deals. You did see Cathie Wood, the ARK ETFs, add a position. I follow Wood on her trades, and I think, she's very smart when it comes to adding these growth names. You did, though, have George Soros announce that one of his investors in the fund took a stake in the company years ago, and he is now going to sell out of his position completely because he doesn't believe morally in what the company does. So that is the only kind of red flag around this name. They are tied to some of that intelligence, private information. So sometimes there's questions around, if certain investors will touch this name and if people want to be involved in a company like that. But again, look at those deals, look at that backlog. Look at this thing running since that listing. This was one of the largest private companies for years and years. And then the other symbol I'll give you, Mitch, is SSSS. So that is Suro Capital. They are a company that takes stakes. Oh, is it not there? SSSS.
Man.
There it is. What a symbol, huh?
They tried to play with somebody with that symbol.
So Suro Capital actually owns a stake in Palantir. They have owned it for years pre-IPO. So Suro takes stakes in companies. They owned Uber years ago. They owned Twitter years ago. These small pre-IPO stakes. This is one where their net asset value is growing due to that stake in Palantir. And as you can see over the last couple of months, investors are starting to realize that. By pushing this higher, but it's trading below net asset value. And as they are able to monetize that stake in Palantir, you're going to see that net asset value increase, their revenue increase, and they'll be able to, invest in some other pre-IPO names. So this is one of the ways to kind of piggyback on that Palantir run-up with SSSS.
All right, guys, as you can see, we're going through all these in the chat. So definitely hit the like, hit the subscribe below. I got one more that's been mentioned quite a bit of time here. This is, I thought I'd find the funniest name to bring it up with. So ML Grandma, I hope that you're watching out here. We got MMEDF. So what do you know about this one, Chris?
Yeah, so MindMed. So this is a psychedelics company. So they trade OTC. You're starting to see some volume, starting to see that price go up. Psychedelic stocks seem to be, one of the next areas. We've seen cannabis kind of have a run up over the years with the election. So psychedelics, you saw several states actually pass legislation on psychedelics. I think this is, a growing market going forward. The one I want to bring up is CMPS, so Compass Pathways. This was an IPO earlier this year. This one's traded on a major exchange. So this is the one that I prefer here. I think psychedelics is a good long-term market to be in as that legalization kind of takes place. So if you look at that chart, which I'm sure Mitch will hit on, you can kind of see the ups and downs. Again, I think this is a long-term opportunity in psychedelics. Similar to where if your portfolio long-term, if you want kind of some cannabis exposure, you might need to have some psychedelic exposure as well. What do you think, Mitch?
Ooh, I'm liking the chart. When I make the faces, you already know the deal. I'll tell you why. Because I can see this on the hourly chart. Watch how this gets clear. I'm going to go to the weekly chart here. Look at this. Boom, guys. Does that not look like a clear bull flag to you? That looks as bull flaggy as it gets to me. And this is why I'm in the weekly, guys, and not in the daily. I'm even going further in time to tell me the trend. So what do you get? You get that drive up, right? Pull back. Drive up, pull back. Drive up, pull back. This is that third pullback, guys. The rule of three here. Holding right here at this $34 price point. Now I just need to see the volume follow. If the volume follows through that 38, I think this will be looking good to maybe make a run towards that 44. And as you mentioned, this is not just a play for right now. This is kind of more of an investment look for a long-term play. I'm just more along just seeing the chart and getting a little excited. All right, Chris. So I think we've touched a lot of stocks here. I think I want to touch one more stock here. Definitely a lot of people are mentioning a lot of names out there. We can go to some of the IPOs. Just want to really quickly touch some of the IPOs that have been really making a move. And one that I'm still kicking myself, guys. Sometimes we all miss a stock that we have the story that we think we know the kind of the way the business runs. And this just goes into, trust your own instincts. Part of trading is not necessarily just finding someone to follow or someone to just copycat. It's find your own process, what works for you guys, because that's more important than ever. So one of the stocks that I'd mentioned here is CRSR. It's the stock that you can look back on my Twitter. The day after it IPO'd and it went down, I was thinking, this is the stock I want to buy. But what held me back, guys, was the market environment. And sometimes you got to get that out of your head when you're doing an investment. Current market environment can play a factor on short-term price, but it can also be something that can keep you out of these long-term investments. And so you have to figure out a way so that you can average into the play if it's maybe a down day in the SPY and you're seeing that kind of weak environment. So that's probably if I could go back, probably what I would want to do is kind of start averaging in, not put maybe the full position in because I saw the market heading down. But let's look at the chart here. The chart says it all. All right, guys, so I'm going to pull up the chart here. Look at this daily chart, guys. Look at this daily chart. IPO'd here at above 17. It opened at 15.12. It went up to a high of 16.75, and it actually closed that day at 14.25. I've mentioned that I was looking towards that $14 and $13 price point to definitely jump into this one. And man, it would have been a great trade because at the end of the day, the environment was right and the timing was right, I feel. This is a stock that is in gaming and computer accessories. So when you think about it, I mean, Chris, you've seen it out there. It's hard to get a capture card right now. And if you think about it, if I want a capture card, I want an Elgato 4K capture card. Who owns that product? Corsair Gaming. So you got to know the stories, guys. You got to know what's actually moving, where the social trends are. I've been seeing so many streamers come on that at the end of the day, they need some products. So many people at home, remote working. You got to use that head to find those social trends so that you can find your trade ideas. So Chris, what would you add to that before we get on out of here?
Yeah, and we've seen, new consoles come out. Corsair, it's a play on streaming, with YouTube and Twitch. It's also a play on those new consoles. We waited years and years, for these new consoles to come out. And if you look at the headlines, what's the news? That they're selling out. You cannot buy a PlayStation 5 right now. It is extremely hard to get these. Corsair benefits from that. They went public at the perfect time. I do think it was possibly mispriced, as that comment said, but they went public at the right time. They are capitalizing on that growth. They are going to capitalize on the console market now for the next couple of years. Great trends there. The one that I would add that I have talked about before is symbol IMMR, Immersion Corp. So they are the company that owns the haptics patents. So the PlayStation 5 comes with one controller. They make the haptics for that controller that makes it vibrate, makes it shake, makes it interact with the user. Everyone is going to buy, well, not everyone, but the majority of people are going to buy a second controller. PlayStation 5 controller is the number 2 selling item in the games category on Amazon right now. Again, look at those trends. They are getting royalty revenue for every controller sold, every PlayStation 5 sold. You're seeing games announce that they are interacting with those haptics, making their games more, interactive. The shooting games where, the controller shakes or vibrates, you can actually sense and, really feel when people are around you. So this is one that's going to benefit from that console cycle. You look at Sony, you look at Microsoft, how much is their stock going to move on these new consoles when gaming isn't 100% of their revenue? So look at these picks and shovel plays. Look at the thing behind the thing. So Corsair Gaming, Immersion. Mitch, I know you've talked about Turtle Beach before with the headsets. Again, look at those gaming, those companies that are going to benefit from streaming, work at home with the PCs and also the console cycle. You have three major growth trends there in that market. And guys, I don't know if you listened to the show yesterday. We had Will Hershey from the Bets ETF on. We're going to bring him back on next week. Roundhill also runs the Nerd ETF, which is the esports and gaming pure play ETF. So we're going to pick his brain about some of these gaming companies, to really dive in there. So if you guys have questions about any gaming stocks, drop those tickers in, and we'll take a look at those and get some questions lined up for him next week. So yeah, great show today, guys. Keep dropping those tickers in. We'll try to hit on some more tomorrow. But again, like and subscribe to the show. Tell your friends. We're trying to build the audience up so we can keep doing this daily. We're going to bring you some great guests next week, some CEOs, and again, Will Hershey from the Nerd ETF. So what do you think, Mitch?
Yeah, guys, stay tuned. We always talk about story here, and you will get them a little bit early. I was talking about this console play since literally January. So, I mean, the chart says it all. If you look at Sony, we got a dip going into October. And what happened at the beginning of November? Boom. A move from 76 up there to 90s. Some people can say that it's not that easy, but sometimes if you know where catalysts are coming, like I always say, guys, story is everything in stocks, especially in this new kind of market. So like always, guys, tell your friends, hit the like below, hit the subscribe, hit the bell. We'll see you next time on the SPACs. Attack, baby.
Bye, guys.